The Disneyland Limited, now leaving for a grand circle tour of the Magic Kingdom. All passengers board.
Star Tours announces the boarding of the Endor Express. All passengers, please prepare for immediate boarding.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. To those guests who've just joined us, welcome. For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the door.
Please keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the train and remain seated at all times. Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
I am Sam the American Eagle, and I am proud to introduce the Grand Circle Tour podcast, a celebration of Disney parks, but mostly the American ones. I really like these guys.
Hello, passengers. Welcome to this week's episode number 46 on the Grand Circle Tour podcast. I am Mindy, and this week's host as your cruise director aboard the ship. So please pack your bags and grab your passport as we embark on our port adventure. We will have plenty of fun and magic as we set sail, so welcome aboard. So guys, on this week's episode, we are talking about, it's a great episode and a topic about our favorite or soon to be or dream Disney jobs. So, you know, the jobs at Disney when you were a kid and somebody asked you, what do you want to do someday? Well, today we're going to talk about that. So I'm joined by my amazing, fantastic friends, George. How are you doing today, George?
I'm doing good, Mindy. How about yourself?
Good. George, what's up? What's up?
Well, my waltz up this week. I just found out a bit of news from Disney. I believe starting February 27th, Walt Disney World will be having a new addition to, you have to, with the debit cards placed on file at the Disney Resort hotels, that you must have a debit or credit card put on file if you want to do charges with your Magic Band. And they take out, I believe it's $100 to be put on hold for reasonings that Disney was actually losing out on money and people were getting away with free items of going to the parks, scanning their Magic Bands, and not having nothing on file for Disney to show proof that they had purchased those items.
Oh.
And I believe this notion starts February 27th, 2019.
Wow. Okay. Good to know. Now we've got our amazing Jungle Cruise skipper, Jason. How are you, buddy?
I am fantastic, Mindy. How are you?
I am so good. It's kind of warm today in Arizona, but waltz up with you.
Well, I think some of our passengers saw my waltz up this week. I got a vinyl LP of a movie soundtrack that I love the movie and I love the soundtrack. It is Disney's 1978 masterpiece, The Black Hole.
The Black Hole. So
I love how you just added like masterpiece like right after the 1978. Like when you hear masterpiece, like people are probably thinking, you know, oh, what's the matter? And they're like, The Black Hole. Wait, what movie is that?
So passengers, have you even heard of The Black Hole? I have never seen it myself. It's a Disney film, but as my husband and Jason have talked, that's my husband's favorite movie too, and I know the two of them, and we'll all sit down to watch it, but they can get giddy over The Black Hole at D23 because we're all going and we're going to have a great time as friends. So Black Holeing it up.
I'm disappointed in Galaxy's Edge still. I'm like, why don't you just build me a little black hole section of the park with all that lovely 70s brutalism disco architecture?
That's exactly what Brandon said. He's like, someday they need to make a black hole attraction. So you'll probably be the only two riding it.
If they rethemed Space Mountain to Black Hole, I would just be on there all day and all night.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
See, what's really cool about the soundtrack is it's John Barry who did all the original James Bond stuff. And if you listen to all the Bond soundtracks, you can hear like something from one album make it to another album. Well, if you listen to this and Moonraker side by side, you'll hear bits of both scores bleed back and forth.
That's so great. Thank you. So my waltz up, if you follow my Facebook page or my Instagram, I ran into a little antique shop and they had a booth and it was filled with Disneyland memorabilia, even Walt Disney World memorabilia. And I'm geeky about the parks. Like I love Disney, but it's the parks. I have it's part of my heart. And they had so many things, so it was hard for me to decide what I was going to get and what I was not going to get. But I ended up buying Disneyland signs, like real signs from Disneyland. And I got a lot of magazines and some fun old tickets and just had a great time digging through stuff. So if you follow me on Facebook, there's a huge video about that. But that was my waltz up. It gave me chills and goosebumps. It's fun to find that fun thing that like running into vintage stuff, right?
I wanted that whole stack of Disneyland magazines.
I know. I want them too. I didn't buy them yet.
If I could have put my card through the screen for you to grab at the other end.
$300. I figured it was $350 for all of them, so I'll get back over there to do it. Hopefully,
I followed you on that Facebook Live when you were going through showing everyone, and what caught my eye was the Disney signs.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I think you also said there was one that was the World of Color standby.
There's a World of Color standby sign, and they had an Epcot sign. Sometime I don't know what it was from, but it was Epcot, and it had Figment on it, and like all these little. Something had to do with Epcot. It was really cool. Lots of fun memorabilia. What'd you say it looked like?
Oh, I thought it was for pins. It was like a pin trading event.
No, it's not a pin thing. It was like literally an event. Like you went around and did stuff for kids. It was, I want to say it was like Kid Cop Fun Stops, but kind of that idea where it was for little kids and they did something with this sign. I don't know. It was kind of cool to see.
I just kept thinking, how good would that look in my office?
Oh, I know. I wanted it all. And the funny thing is like the owners of the store, I go up to them, I'm like, hey, so who's the Disney lover here? And the girl raises her hand and she's like 16. She's like, I am. I've actually never been to Disney, but I just collect it and find it because people like you come in and buy it. I was like, I thought it was so funny. I was just laughing. Yeah, so she's like this little hunter for Disney vintage stuff. So it was kind of cool to see. Anyhow, passengers, so like I said, do you remember when you were a kid and everyone asked you, what did you want to be when you grew up or grow up? If you could do anything like me, it usually consisted of a job with Disney or had something to do with Disney. It's a lifelong dream I've had, so I thought it would be a fun show and have us talk about our Disney Dream cast member jobs and what that would consist of. So I can't think of anybody else that would love to like kick this off than our amazing Jason, who has been a cast member, and tell us about himself and his story of how he got started and what his position was, and did you like it?
So I've worked for Disney twice, once for the Disney Store and the second time for Disneyland. And spoilers, I enjoyed it when I wasn't a manager. And after management, it ruined it.
Aww.
But at Disney Store, I was just a regular old cast member. And Disney Store, way more fun to work at than Disneyland because you become really close with these people. I'm still friends with my Disney Store friends 20 years later.
So what are the perks for working at a Disney Store? I actually got accepted to work there, but I couldn't because at the time I had won an all expenses paid trip to Walt Disney World. And I'll tell you about that some other time, passengers. But because of that, I could not be affiliated with Disney. So I didn't take it. I was just going to do like one day a week just to say I worked for Disney. So what are the perks there, and how, and were you in the store before, like before they did this overhaul look the way it is now, or were you like the 1990s cute film looking store that had the little characters all over and actually felt like you were in the parks?
That was my Disney store when it was the extension of Disneyland. I still have my blue cardigan, oversized down to the knees with the D patch.
Oh, cute.
I still have my 101 Dalmatian pens and my name tag. And that was a great time. I loved working at the Disney store because you really felt more like you were an extension of Disney, and in a way that was more fun, being an extension of Disneyland than being at Disneyland. Because people would come in, for the most part, to get their Disney fix. They were in a great mood. You're with great people, great discounts.
Yeah, it's not the same to walk in. Like if I go to a mall, I literally have to step foot in the Disney store. But the Disney store then is so different from the Disney store now. The Disney store then really was an extension of the parks. You'd go in, and most of the stores had them, that huge pile of plush toys at the back, and they had the screen, and on the screen they would show all the sing-along songs or parts of the park, or commercials of the park, or different movies and clips. And it was just the feeling of being at Disney, and all the characters that were around, and the little moving characters that they had up around the ceilings. It really was an extension of the parks.
It was like a Disney bubble you could go to really quickly and get your Disney fix, because you really felt like you were an extension of Disneyland and giving that magic out.
And you could buy tickets there, right? You could buy your tickets there?
Tickets, commemorative tickets. So that big pile of plush in the back, do you know what it's called?
No.
Plush Mountain.
Plush Mountain. Good to know.
And you never, ever want to dive headfirst into it, because it's really a row of shelves. I can't tell you how many times a teenage boy would be like, look at me, and go running headfirst into Plush Mountain just to bounce off.
Oh, man.
Now, I have a question for you, Jay. When you were saying that it was better than working at Disneyland, was it more of a sense of the stress of the role that you had at Disneyland, or was it more that you just saw Disneyland as your happy place, your go-to place, and to see that other side of it, it kind of ruined it? No,
because Disney Store felt like you were ambassadors of Disneyland in a good way, because people would come to get their Disney fix. Working at Disneyland, it was fun when I was a regular hourly cast member. I started at the Disneyland Hotel as the phone clerk for the bellman. After a while, I went to go work at Human Resources, writing SOPs, which are standard operating procedure manuals.
Fun.
Oh, yeah. And then I went and I became a manager and helped open the Grand Californian, and I managed all those guys I worked for. Going into management kills it. It's a lot of fun if you don't need it to be your primary source of income, because they really don't pay well to this day. And it's just a sad fact. I was working when I was in management 80 hours a week for just under 400 take home.
Wow.
Yeah, 60 to 80 hours a week.
We all have a dream job with Disney, but the sad part is, and I know we'll talk about it, it's still a corporation. It's a corporation of profits and losses. It has P&L and a whole bunch of board members and people that they have to make happy, and stockholders that it's a lot about money and income.
And what happens every time they need to make the stockholders happy? They fire people. And so today there's less, and it's more at Walt Disney World, but today at Disneyland, you've got your full-time cast members that have been there for umpteen years. But you also have the cast members that there's stories and articles that cast members are on welfare and homeless because they can't afford to keep a roof over their head working for Disney. And it's sad. It's sad that people are reverting to having to have second jobs. It's sad that, Disney and Walt Disney World, there's not a lot of full-time jobs, that they rely a lot on the college programs to fill those needs and pay them as little as possible and expect them to deliver the same amount of service, because Disney's built on service, that we saw in the 90s or the 80s. You ever feel like the 90s was the last great Disney decade?
In ways, yes.
I think that if you were a cast member coming into the 80s and the 90s, like in the parks, it was kind of like the beginning of the safe zone before anyone even knew that that was going to be the safe zone of how technology would expand and our, with the way the world is becoming, with finances and everything. I just think no one really looked at it in that manner back in the day. It was, okay, this is my dedicated job and plus a job that I enjoy. So now people in today's time want that same feel. And unfortunately, it's almost like that you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Well, and part of that is time. I mean, I've been going to Disneyland for 4 decades, so I've watched it change over the years. And honestly, it really used to be a lot more special. It was a very special thing. And it's like anything. Time is your enemy. It's kind of outgrown what it was and become what it needed to be to still be here almost 65 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this in a negative way or anything, but I mean, just imagine even with what, if my child's going to go through and their children, down, like, what is it going to be like then? I mean, I'm for sure there's going to be lots of positive things, but I'm for sure, there's going to be things that are even going to be worse than what's going on now.
Right. Well, I feel like even
it's growing.
Yeah. Well, at Disneyland, the 90s, this is what's hard is what did Paul Pressler and Cynthia Harris do to Disneyland when Matt Ouimet had to come in and fix it all? Because, one of them was a Gap CEO and worked for Gap, and they came in and it was all about merchandise. So they pushed all the merchandise and left the park alone. They forgot about what the park stood for. So the park fell apart and the cast members were angry about it. Nothing was getting fixed and attractions were dilapidated, and the castle was like turning white because it had faded so much. You probably remember this, Jason.
Rot on things.
Yeah, rot on things, and it was all.
Now, having come from the Disney Store first, Cynthia Harris, I want to say, is a really lovely person. She's a great boss when it comes to people because she remembers you. And believe it or not, in my time there, I ran into her so many times, and she remembered who you were, what you did. She really was great with the cast members.
Really?
However,
to meet her.
I really liked her. She did Disneyland no favors, though, because that's when we lost all of our unique shops, and the same merchandise was in every spot in every store in the resorts.
Do you think that's where the problem is now that it's leaning into? Do you think that's the problem where they combine parks and resorts with consumer product?
Oh, that's not a healthy thing for Disney in the long run, because it's all about what can we sell you right now.
Oh, yeah.
So they should have kept those two entities separate.
No, they should have kept them separate. Parks and resorts needs to be its own thing. And even the parks need to be run as separate businesses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In order to keep them unique and individual. It's that whole Walmartization of Disney we hear about.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's, pay these people as little as possible and try to make as much as possible off the cast members. Let's get rid of the annual pass holders so we can have the one and done families that come in and spend more money than an annual pass holder.
And that's exactly what the price hike is about.
Yeah, and that's the price hikes are happening. It's just really getting away from the Disney culture as to what it started as. And unfortunately, do we really want to be a cast member? I mean, there are jobs that I dream of being for Disney because it's astounding and just mesmerizing to me to want to do these jobs. And it's like a dream of mine. Do I want to really do them? Probably not, but it would be a cool experience. But it is a business. It's a corporation, and it's run by people who try to make the dollar bill stretch further.
I will say, I want to throw something positive in here real quick. I think the pendulum has swung so far in one direction, it's got to start swinging back in the other.
Oh,
And
it
maybe it's with
will.
Iger leaving and new blood in charge, but it's going to go back to be there's going to be someone inside who starts pushing the pendulum back to the Disney we know and love.
Yes. And we're not here to rant about Disney because we are going to talk about the Disney that we know and love. And that is what jobs we want to be when we grow up. What are the jobs that that we have in our minds that say, oh my gosh, I'd be like kid in a candy store doing this cast member job. And let's talk about it. George, tell me about your story. Like, what do you want to be? So we have our top two that we picked. So one of them is more serious, and one of them is the fun job that just have fun doing.
All right, so are we going to start with the professional one or the fun one?
Yes, the professional one first.
Professional one. Okay. So my dream, as far as a professional standpoint, was to always work in Walt Disney Imagineering. Now, up until the point of knowing exactly what I wanted to do, when I would go to my frequent trips down to Walt Disney World, I would always have to make it a point to do dining with an Imagineer at the Hollywood Brown Derby at Hollywood Studios. And I believe it was the Imagineer Gary Landrum, who I believe, don't quote me on this, forgive me, Gary, if you hear me out there, if I messed up your title. I think he did something with the archives, I believe. And after we had our luncheon and everything, I pulled him aside alone because with the dining with an Imagineer, you have groups of people. It's not just you one-on-one with an Imagineer. And I pulled him aside and I said that I love not just what you do, but what the company of Imagineering does and what you guys do every day. And I would love to be a part of that someday. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, how does one get into Imagineering? And he said, just find what you love to do. Find your passion. And I didn't really understand it at that point because I'm thinking, well, that is my passion. I want to be an Imagineer. I'm not understanding. Well, as I've gotten older, I've come to the term of understanding that an Imagineer is not just an Imagineer. It's different spectrums that create the theme parks. So I still didn't know really what I wanted to do until the point where I love to write. I love creating stories. I love making up characters and everything. And I just started writing. And it wasn't until the fact of trying to combine two of them together. And I thought, does Imagineers even have writers at that point? And then I found out that they do, that they're actually called show writers and that they actually write the storyline of an attraction or the script of a particular character in an attraction and everything. So I thought I really would love to do that. And that's when I decided to go to school and get my bachelor's degree in creative writing and entertainment, specifically for that purpose, that I still to this day, that is my lifelong dream, to work in Imagineering as a creative entertainment show writer.
Wow, that is so incredible. You know, it goes along. I was watching, kind of interjecting on that, I was watching YouTube today, and somehow, you know, you go down the rabbit hole of YouTube, you start watching one thing, and the next thing you know, you're on totally watching rabbits or whatever. But so today I was watching YouTube, and it was talking about, so if you haven't known, guys, the World of Disney stores, both on the East and West Coast, have done a complete makeover. And it used to be very kidsy, Disney in your face all over, Goofy all over, and Mickey Mouse. And just, it was very Mickey Mouse. And, you know, they had Aladdin on a carpet up in the ceilings. And now you go in and it's very streamlined. There's brick walls. it looks very mall-y, but I didn't understand until I watched this Imagineer and this cast member talking about what it was. And it goes off that, George. So he says, okay, here's the story to this store. So upstairs is the Grand California Hotel, and down here was the bus depot where the buses would come in the 1940s, and Walt bought it. It was just old, and he decided, you know what, let's turn it into a store. So this whole thing has a backstory to it, like you were saying, and writing these scripts as far as what this whole thing is, because everything has a purpose. Disney just doesn't do things just to do things. It always has a backstory. So knowing the backstory makes it kind of even cooler. So that's an amazing cast member position to have, to write those stories that have to do with the backstory of Disney. How cool.
And on top of that I've actually briefly spoke with someone, not knowing at first that they actually want to be a part of our show, in the future. And I found out that they are a former Imagineer. And lo and behold, I asked him, what were you? And he was a show writer.
Oh, we should have had him on this show.
Yeah, so I am definitely looking forward to that. Actually, an Imagineer, mentioned to me that they want to be on the podcast. So, and part of something that I still am anticipating on possibly going into as a profession. So I think it's going to be cool, to possibly get him on, hear his story, his background, how he started, and see where that takes me. I have gotten some advice from him, of how to start.
Dream Jobs 2.0, episode. So thank you for sharing with us. That's so cool. Now, Jason, how about you? What is your dream cast member position that you would want to do at Disney?
My dream job at Disney is, so I am a graphic artist. I try to get my own graphic novel launched for a little while now, but I want to take my style and I want to be the guy to do all the maps for all the resorts.
So what kind of maps?
It's like when you come pick up your guidebook and you open it up to see where everything's at. I want that to be my artwork that everyone has in their hand when they're walking around the park. I want to do all the Disney architecture and buildings and landmarks in my own wonky little 60s style.
How fun would that be? We'd all have a little, get you to autograph our maps for us.
I would walk around the park with Sharpies, like, here you go. I know you don't know, I'm gonna autograph this for you.
I'm going to autograph. Why did I make this? What was that, George?
I said then they could also digitalize it on the app.
Oh, yes. Digitalize it. Now, what made you want to do that job? Like, why of all the jobs? So you're a graphic design artist, and that's just one thing that you wanted to do, or anything else around the parks?
Well, I've always liked taking buildings and giving them like a wonky look, so that there's like, what I do is a style called Simple Flat, where there's no 3D, everything's 2D, and there's no shading, and it's all about how you layer with just layering and things on top of it. And like, I've always wanted to take, like, I love drawing the Disney buildings in my style so that they look alive and a little drunk.
Like our amazing, the Grand Circle Tour podcast little logo. Like, Jason designed that for us, and it is wonky and it's so fun, and it says so much about us, doesn't it? It's fantastic. It's because we're a little wonky.
I love it. I'm proud of that one. But yeah, all my stuff kind of looks like that.
Just knocked it out of the park. So I hope to someday see you on a map and your artwork there, because that would be fantastic.
Sorry. If I ever get the chance, if my dream job ever happens, look for the hidden Vincent from the black hole in every map.
Of course.
It's going to pop up somewhere. Maybe next to Cinderella.
He's going to draw an attraction that's not really there. Black hole.
Yep.
Until they actually build it.
Put it in every single park.
Yeah. People are like, where's this black hole attraction? It's in the black hole. Oh my gosh, that's too fun. What a great idea. So my dream job has to do with what I do for a side job, and it's something that has kind of fallen into my lap. It wasn't something I went out of my way and said, I want to do this someday. It just kind of happened. And that is I flip furniture, and I have a booth at Merchant Square, and I upcycle furniture and I paint it. And I also have a lot of to do with home and decor. I own a home and decor booth, and inside a store, I do window designs and do stuff for the store itself. So without, going that direction, it has become, and I love vintage. So it's something that I just get giddy about. It gives me goosebumps. It's being a window designer on Main Street. And in fact, I just thought it for kicks and giggles. I went to, and if you ever want to get a job at Disney, you would go to disneycareers.com, and on there you search for jobs. And right now there's 517 jobs in California available. And one of those jobs, I searched for windows, and lo and behold, there was a window designer job on there. It said part-time, you work for the corporate from 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and it's $24.93 an hour. So, but with California wages, I'm sure that's nothing. That's probably peanuts. But my dream job is available, and I got a little excited for 2.3 seconds. I'd never do it, but it would be really cool too. So that's my dream job.
Well, I think it's fascinating, like especially between the two of yours, with Jay, creating the maps, and Mindy, you creating like the designers and the windows. That those are the intricate details that Disney loves to put out for their guests that a lot of people really don't think about, where they use it every single day. Where they enter into the theme park, they always grab a map and a schedule. They know that they're looking at something, but they're not really focusing on that there's someone behind it that makes that map. Or as they're passing a window on Main Street and they say, oh, that looks really nice. Oh, that looks cool. Or something that draws them into the store, but it's like there's someone behind there that has to design that window.
It's all the little details. And I always tell people to look up. Just stop and look up. If you're going to go into a store on Main Street and you're looking around at all the fun merchandise, stop and look up. When you look up, there are so many details around the stores that have to do with decor, and it makes a feeling. And without it, you probably wouldn't ever notice it there. You might never notice the little doll sitting in the corner up there in the toy shop. But those dolls and all the trains and all the toys that are up there in the toy shop make such a feeling that you don't even realize it's there. So stop and look up. That's my tip for you. And that's what I want to do. I want to be that person that designs all that and puts, said George, those little touches in there that you really don't even notice. But
all I'm saying is either way, just keep me out of the Emporium, because that's a financial liability right there. Because it's like the second I'm in this, I'm walking out with bags.
Bags. I think we all have that problem.
So, Mindy, I got to ask, if that was your job, where would you hide a wooden leg named Smith?
Where would I hide the wooden leg named Smith? Probably in clothiers or the Emporium, for sure. Somewhere in there. Yeah, definitely. There would be a wooden leg named Smith. That's too great. So I love all those answers. Now we're going to move on to our fun jobs that we want to have, because like I said, we picked two. And what we'd want to do, kind of more of a funsy job. So George, what would you want to do in the parks?
Well, with me, I'm a people person. I love interacting with people. I love working in groups. I love being part of a team, like this podcast. So But I also enjoy creeping people out, scaring them, making them feel nervous. And as part of being on this podcast, we were deciphering like what would we be, as far as like part of Disney. And I came up with Bellhop George, the bellhop for the Tower of Terror. And the reason why I came to that conclusion was that if I had to pick a job actually involving myself in front of the curtain instead of behind the scenes, I would love to be a bellhop at the Tower of Terror, but more so the loading the guests on, where you talk the spiel and you load them, seat belts, and then just as you're about to press the button and the elevator doors close on the guests, you get like that one final scare and your face is just there and it's shutting. Or I would also like to be the bellhop at the end of the ride, because as soon as the doors are open, you just pop your head in and scare the living daylights out of everybody.
That's totally you. I could see you doing that. That's too fun, and that would be a fun
because
time.
I would even like add my little, what I like to call my evil laugh, because I have a book. I think I mentioned this before, that I have a Haunted Mansion book that reads as dialogue, but it's the lyrics of the song, and I would read that to Josh on occasion, and I would always add my little evil laugh to it, even though it's not on there, but I would add my laugh to it. So I would have to incorporate that in the Tower of Terror as well, as corny as it sounds.
Jordan, I can see you taking that smile and making it really creepy.
Evil little twitch.
You look just like Vincent Price.
Yeah. Paint your face a little gray so you're gonna look dead. Scare the crap out of kids. Oh, I remember one time we got off Tower of Terror and we were walking out, and in California's Tower of Terror, it's shorter and it's built into the ground versus up. So there's a stairway that goes up when you're because there's 2 stories, so you can go up or down. But this one stairwell you pass by and it's on your left. And there was this cast member. It was creepy as heck. He just stood at the top of this stairwell and just stood there, blank-faced, and stared at all the guests as they walked by, like stone-cold faced. And then I got a little freaked out, so I was like, wait a minute. So I turn around and I go back, and he was gone. So I was like, maybe I just saw a ghost. So you'd be that cast member scaring the crap out of me. That ride's already scary enough.
Because I also add this thing, like if people are passing, I do this really like slow,
ominous turn of the head look.
Like the Haunted Mansion bust.
Yeah. You do so good at that.
What they need to execute. Do you guys all remember the Hitchhiker episode of The Twilight Zone where she's driving cross country?
Yes.
Hikers everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have someone dressed up as that guy walking up and down the hallway. Going my way.
Going my way. Oh my gosh. That's too fun. All right. Jay, what would you want to do? Tell us.
Would you be surprised if I said my dream fun job at Disney would be a Jungle Cruise skipper?
So I have to ask, do you have the spiel memorized?
No, I would probably cherry pick all the scripts and create one of my own.
Very cool.
And because I'm about as shy as a tribal dance, I don't want you on your phone. I'm going to look at you. I'm going to make you laugh. I'll make every one of you laugh before you get off this boat.
And here's the thing. You go on the Jungle Cruise, a jungle skipper makes or breaks that attraction, hands down. Like, I have been on that attraction so many times, and I can get on and literally my cheeks hurt from laughing so hard because their jokes are hilarious. Sometimes you hear things that you've never heard and it's funny and they really get into it. And unfortunately, like the last time we went on it, this girl was doing it and she might as well have been reading out of a book. She was dry. She acted like she didn't want to be there. and nobody was laughing. It was not fun. And we got off and we're like, well, that was the most interesting round trip around the Nile that I ever went on. So I'm glad you said that, because they will make or break that attraction.
And I'm the worst passenger when that happens because I start clowning them. Like, come on, laugh. You're not going to be funny than I am.
I start doing their spill for them. Look, there's danger. And people laugh in the boat. Yeah, they probably don't like that very much, but it is what it is. If they're not going to be funny, we're going to have fun ourselves.
And some people think you need to have the "that's what she said" version of it to be funny. No, it's even funnier when you can make everyone laugh and clean.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that attraction is meant to be funny. Like, it's the best. Now, what is it about Jungle Cruise that you love?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What is it about the Jungle Cruise that you love?
It's the interaction with the guests.
Uh-huh.
Because you have to do that job. It doesn't matter how, I mean, you can get the information across, but you have to be personable and you have to connect with everybody. I have no problem speaking to a crowd of like 1,000 people. So a little boat to me, it's like they're my comedy hostages.
You're like my soul lost long brother.
And that's what I could actually go on with you, Jay. As I said, I mean, with the Jungle Cruise, it's literally from beginning to end with the attraction. You know, with the Tower of Terror, it's like just that beginning point. But I think it's having that interaction with the guests, because you're setting the stage. And in your case, you'd be also ending it, you know, on the point throughout the whole attraction. But, you know, I think it's that interaction point where, as you said, because I could also speak in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So to actually grasp someone's attention and literally scare the bejesus out of them, if you, like in my point, like if I can get at least one person to even think of, oh, should I have not come on this ride, then I've done my job.
Whereas with like the Jungle Cruise, that is one of those quintessential Disney experiences. So you kind of, you know, there's a challenge to get it right. No matter how you do it, as long as you get it right.
Exactly.
And on this last trip at Disney World a few months ago, I came back going, Jungle Skipper Sean was the best jungle skipper I've ever had in my whole life.
Isn't that the best? When you get off and you're like, that was the best jungle skipper I've ever had, because they're hilarious and they make the attraction 10 times better.
Yeah. And it was the end of the day. They were getting ready to shut it off for Mickey's for the night. Mickey's Not So Scary. I was like the last 45 minutes of the day. And the dude was so on point and so great that I came off. I was laughing the whole time I came off, and I was like, wow, I will always remember Jungle Skipper Sean at the Magic Kingdom because he was the best skipper I ever had.
That's so fantastic. And it makes an experience, like, especially for people who've never been. What if they get on there and they're like, that ride's lame. Like, it wasn't funny. What are you talking about? It wasn't funny. It all comes down to you and the jungle skipper. So I commend you, because that would be a super fun job.
I could do it. I'm a spaz. I could do it all day long and never get tired of it.
Never get tired of it. Yeah. So I've heard that they rotate, though, that they don't just do the spiel all day, that they actually like load boats and then they rotate and do like 3, and then they'll get off and rotate and do some more. I actually asked one of them that once. He's like, yeah, we don't do this all day, but so,
use your comedy skills when you're in line. Make the people wait and laugh a little bit.
I know, right?
There should be like an inside spiel as well to choose from.
So here's the thing. Here's a tip. So if you go on the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland, I'm not sure if they do it at Walt Disney World, but if you ask a Jungle Cruise skipper for a map, they will give you a vintage map of the Jungle Cruise, and it's the little Nile River, and like you're going on a African safari. So they give that map to you, and they'll let you have it, but they make you do funny things like, okay, well, give me your best elephant impression. So they make you like do these funny things to get a map, or they'll make you answer questions about the attraction to get one. So that's fun, and you can ask them for it. They have them behind the little counter there where they work, and that's just a little extra memento you can have for free from Disneyland.
And if they ask you to do the elephant noise, do what I did. Just go, just put your hand next to your nose and go, snarf.
Exactly.
That's
Or
my
what I
elephant.
would actually
That's my
do.
elephant.
Or what I would actually do is pay homage to the Carol Burnett show, because I love that show with
That's the skit I'm thinking of, but I didn't want to say it.
the infamous elephant story where the two trunks.
And that's what I'm thinking of, but I didn't want to say it.
This is why we have a podcast together, guys, because we are all on the same page and we're all a little wonky.
We all have fun doing it.
We all have fun. So my dream job, it's not as fun as your guys's, but it's something that just hits home to me. My favorite attraction in all of Fantasyland is the Storybook Land Canal boats. So I've always wanted to be those cute girls that sit on top and do the tour of Fantasyland Canal boats. And it really comes down to their cute peacoats and their cute lederhosen shorts that they wear. I love their costumes. They're just so fun. And their gray jackets that they wear during the winter. I've always wanted a gray little peacoat like that. So that's mine, and no reason for it. It's just my favorite attraction.
Well, Mindy, I have a question for you. Because you say that's your favorite attraction, and a lot of people would say, wow, I wasn't expecting that, because there's like so many. And the Storybook Land Canal boats is one that kind of gets pushed on the back burner, so to speak, unfortunately, because it really is a very nice ride. What essentially drew you to that ride? Like, what was that moment to say, wow, this is...
Okay.
I can't get enough of this ride.
I love that you asked me that, because it really does go deeper than just, oh, it's my favorite. So when I was a kid, that was probably one of the first attractions I remember going on as a little kid. That and Adventures Through Inner Space. But I remember going on Storybook Land Canal boats and being in awe of this attraction. Well, fast forward, it was 2001. In fact, it was the trip right before 9/11. We had gone to Disneyland. My husband and I was pregnant with my daughter. And we got to see the very last show of the Country Bear Jamboree, and it was September 10th that it happened. So that we were at Disneyland. That was September 9th, excuse me. That was the closing day of Country Bear, and we left Disneyland September 10th. And but that trip, Brandon and I got on Storybook Land Canal boats, and we did not know this. We didn't try to do it. It just happened. We got on at 8:55, and what happens at 9 o'clock? The fireworks. Well, we didn't know. We get on this attraction, and it had been years since I had been on it. Remember, this is 2001. So it was September, and we go around, and they stopped us. They're like, okay, well, we're going to pull the boats over. And they stopped the boat, and it was, I get a little emotional. You could hear the water. It was like the serene, absolute, quiet feeling, all the twinkling little lights around you, and we're just in dead silence. And you could hear Snow White's little wishing well, and you could hear the three little pigs in their little house, and all the sounds of this attraction are going off around you. And it's dead silent, and we're waiting for the fireworks to go off, and all of a sudden, the fireworks go off, and they start shooting up. It seriously could have been a Disney commercial. Like, they go off, and they're right above our heads, right behind those trees, because it's literally the back of the park. And it was the most amazing front seat to fireworks show I've ever had. And from that moment on, it became my favorite attraction of all time at Disneyland. And you can't recreate it, but it is a memory that my husband and I will have and cherish for the rest of our lives, because it was so memorable.
That's one of those memories that sweetens with time.
We tried to recreate it once, and it was like,
It's like a
that
fine
was
wine.
not as cool.
You can't catch lightning in a bottle twice.
Nope. It was like, meh. We asked him, hey, can we get on at 8:55? We want to watch the fireworks from the boat. And we were telling our family, like, yeah, it's so amazing. We filled up the whole boat, and we get out there, and we're like, this is a crappy view of the fireworks. It was not the same. It was just a surreal moment in my life.
I make you totally jealous for a minute.
Yeah.
So I once, just one time around the track, I had the mic and had to give the spiel on the Storybook Land Canal boats.
Beep.
Because I have a big mouth and I was working there at the time, and a friend of mine was the hostess, and I was a little mouth. I'm like, I could totally do this. She hands the mic over, says, okay, it's yours. So I had to remember the spiel as we're going around with the mic in hand giving the spiel.
That's so cool. So that kind of reminds me of this story. My daughter, when she was little, I always dressed her up in costumes. Like, she always wore Disney dresses to the parks. And it seems as though when you wear a Disney costume or dress to a park as a little girl, they get a lot of attention from cast members. And my daughter had really long hair. It was blonde, like a lighter dusty brown. And she dressed, and if I'm going to dress my daughter, it's going to be spot on, so close to the like real deal. So she had an Alice in Wonderland costume on that was legit. I mean, I even put a little petticoat under her dress to poof it up. Cute little shoes, like the little Mary Jane shoes with the strap. And she met Alice and the Mad Hatter over in Fantasyland. And they were so giddy about her costume, and she made them an unbirthday card. She did it. She's like, here's your unbirthday card, because she wanted to meet him. And they take her by the hand, and they're like, hey, let's go. And all these parents are irate, right? They're like, why is she getting all the attention? So they walk my daughter over to the exit of Storybook Land Canal boats. They get the four of us on, and her and Mad Hatter go on a little tour of the four, like our family, around on the Storybook Land Canal boats. And there's, again, another reason why I love that attraction. So one of those epic moments that I never got to say the spiel myself, but
well, I had to remember it and flub parts of it. So
you're like, that's the girl with the shoe up there in the castle.
Like, there's a little kid that kidnaps the other kids to an island with a little fairy. What's that one called?
If you rub that lamp, somebody will come out. Guys, if you've never been to Disneyland, you have to come out and ride Storybook Land Canal boats, because it's one of the attractions that they don't have at Walt Disney World.
Well, really quick, here's my Storybook Land Canal boat story.
Okay.
I get in line. I wait like about 5 to 10 minutes. Get on the ride. Love the ride. Enjoy the ride. Come out to the exit, and I get off. That's it.
I thought you were going to say, oh my gosh.
Mine
Thanks,
wasn't
George.
Well, you just gave me a tagline for the episode.
Oh my gosh. So you are not a fan of Storybook Land?
Oh no, I love it. I just don't like being left out, because you two had like big magical stories.
Oh my gosh.
I only have
funny.
one gripe about that ride.
What's that?
Disneyland, stop forgetting about Beauty and the Beast. At least put the Beast Castle in there, man. If you're not going to give us Be Our Guest, squeeze a tiny little Beast Castle somewhere in there for us to look at.
Amen. They even made a flippin' Arendelle in there. My favorite is the little guy that goes woohoo. The traded post at the end. You literally hear him go woo.
But except for Red Rose Tavern, there's no Beauty and the Beast. You need to put Beauty and the Beast in Disneyland.
Disneyland. I agree.
Little Mermaid can have DCA, but Beauty and the Beast needs a Just saying it now. Knock out the Utopia, put in Bell's Village with the ride, be our guest. I'll be happy.
Oh, that would be so great. Yeah, yeah. They need to do that. But the thing is, too, it's an original attraction. It's been there since opening. Yes? Yeah, it's been there since open. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, and I'm not eating my words. But it wasn't as green as it is now. But it's amazing to hear the how-tos that attraction was built, and that they really do. They're all living trees. They just go out there and manicure them. And what's funny is if you haven't been on the attraction and you're going around, there's this part in the middle, and it's of Peter Pan supposed to be flying over the clock, and it's the park. Well, sometimes ducks come in this attraction and they sit on said little island. So they're like really huge Godzilla-sized ducks. So they're like, oh, there's the giant duck eating the attraction. So it's pretty funny.
Duckzilla.
Actually,
Yeah, Duckzilla.
Now that you actually said that, I do have one small extra little story to that. I do recall seeing ducks while going on the ride, and I'll never forget, and I can't believe I forgot the story until you said it, that a duck actually pooped on Arendelle. And I said, oh, that's nothing. That was just Elsa creating snow. So
Someone give Donald a raise.
That's so funny. No, that's my favorite attraction. So, but anyway, guys, is there anything else that you'd want to do at Disney as far as being the best cast member, or anything else you want to talk about when it comes to being a cast member at Disney?
One last thing, that if I had to pick a third, the only other thing that I would like to do is, it's outside of the Disney property, but still part of Disney, kind of what we were talking about earlier, is where the airport part of Orlando International. So it's
the
like
airport.
the airport.
And what do you do there? Tell me about that.
The airport is sort of like the airport's own Disney store, but it's like a little bit more, because like it's for guests like coming into the Orlando area. They kind of get a little taste of Disney before actually going to Disney.
Oh, the Disney store inside the airport.
Yes.
Yeah. My husband makes fun of me because I'm like, oh, I have to go in there. They're like, why? We're going to Walt Disney World. Because it's a Disney store.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm leaving Orlando and I have to get that one last hit before I get on the plane.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is about that store is, you know, when you go into Disney stores in the malls, usually it's filled with like little kid stuff, really. But that store has a ton of Disney parks merchandise, like the same stuff you can buy at the parks. And I think it's brilliant because I went there and loaded up because we had like a 4-hour layover. So it just meant more money I was spending. And I spent a lot of money in that store. So that would be, you're right, that would be a fun one. Give a little taste of Disney, even for the people that aren't going to Walt Disney World in Florida.
Yep.
Anything else, Jason, before we sign off?
If I had to pick a fun job that wasn't the Jungle Cruise, I'd want to be a secret shopper for Disneyland. I'd love to get paid to shop at Disneyland and judge others.
Hey, you could do that. I guess you live in California. That would be fun. I don't like that. I mean, I get it, and I think it's great. There's kind of stopping that. And they're putting their foot down on secret shoppers. But I love it. I think it's a great idea. I just don't like some of them that overprice the stuff way too much.
I have my Dalmatian pins from the Disney store because the secret shopper wasn't 100. It was out of 101.
Oh.
Got all 101, you got a Dalmatian pin for your vest.
Really? That's so cool. Any job for Disney would be fun. I think we all would agree that working for Disney is kind of our dream, and that all of us have a little bit of cast member inside of us, we tend to point with our 2 fingers and tell people where to go if we're in the parks, or we'll help them find a way if you see somebody with a map, because it makes us feel a little bit better about ourselves to go, you know what, I can help this person and have them help that person have a magical day. Would you agree?
Yes, because even as a guest, I don't know, it must be the vibe that people can sense, because while we were on vacation in July, some random guy just walked up to me. I don't have a cast member badge on. I don't have a walkie-talkie. There's no inclination whatsoever that I'm a cast member. And this guy walks up to me and he says, "Excuse me, can you please let me know what direction," we were in Epcot, "where Soarin' is?" And I go with my 2 fingers and I direct him and point him to the direction. And my family was with me, and I turned to my mom and I said, "See, this is what I get all the time." And I said, just like the story when I actually guided a family from Ireland in Disney Hollywood Studios, because it was their first time there and they were completely lost. And I got talking to them on the bus on the way, and I kind of got them to
That's fantastic.
Quiet dings and laughs.
we have a doorbell.
I know, right? Ding dong. But as a Disney lover, we try to make magic in the parks however we can, even though we don't have that badge. The badge of honor is what we call it, and just having that name badge. But you know what? We can go out of our way to make a magical moment for you can tell when they're first timers. Not only do they walk around with a map, but they also usually have a pin on that says first time. And I love to interact with them and give them tips and help them around the parks, especially if they're in an attraction line with you in the queue. You can always stop and help that person and answer their questions, or give them some tips and point them in the right direction to have them have the most magical moment at Disney. And I think that's so great. Okay, passengers, thanks so much for tuning into this week and for all our fun adventures as cast members and dreaming up our dream jobs. Please chime in and let us know what you'd want to be when you grow up at a Disney park. Let's take it away, Ken, and have a good night.
If you would like to keep the adventure going after the show, be sure to like our Facebook friends page, Grand Circle Tour Magical Ticket Holders. While on Facebook, like our group page, Grand Circle Tour. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Grand Circle Tour Podcast, as well as Instagram, GCT Podcast, and our YouTube channel, Grand Circle Tour. If you would like to send us a message, you can email us at gctpodcast@gmail.com. T-shirts and other fun merchandise can be found at tpublic.com. Simply search Grand Circle Tour Podcast. If you enjoyed your adventure, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Only one rule, make it good. Thank you for riding with us, and welcome home.